A routine surgery goes wrong and leaves a woman dead, but turns out she didn't die because of the surgery. A killer is on the loose inside of an Indiana hospital, and police wonder if this angel of death could be linked to another infamous killer. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Two Crime Newsies. I'm Jen.
Hi, I'm Tina.
Tina's doing this little dance over here. She's pumped.
I'm excited.
I like this episode because it's different.
Yeah, it's different, and I'm just happy to be here recording with you.
You just love me.
It's true.
This week we are talking about an episode called Exhumed, A Killer Revealed. It's season 1, episode 6, and the episode itself is called A Murder Among Us. I watched it on Peacock.
I did too, and we should do more of these because this was interesting.
It was. So before we get into it, I want to say thanks for being with us. I want to start this out with a listener warning. This may be frightening for some listeners. We talk about like a body being buried, dug back up. Some people might think that's a little
uncomfortable.
A little awkward. But yeah, I think overall though, it was a really good episode.
Yeah, I learned a lot.
And we are sitting here drinking our coffee as we do every time we record. And we wanted to say thank you for those who have stepped up and are fueling our podcast. And if you don't know what we're talking about, you can check out our website, buymeacoffee.com/2crimenewsies, where you can contribute to our coffee fund. Podcasting takes a lot of work, and as you can imagine, it takes us a lot of caffeine. And it's just a way that our listeners have been helping us keep going.
Help fuel us.
That's right. All right. Are you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So the show itself takes place in Bedford, Indiana. Now, Bedford is a quiet, small town where neighbors look out for one another and people don't lock their doors. I have always found it fascinating that there's still places where people don't lock their doors at night.
I don't care where I am. I'm going to lock my door.
You would.
Yep. You can tell me there's no need to. I could live in a town with no other people in it and I'm locking my door.
I can see that. Mm-hmm. I think that's smart. I really do. Anyway, so in Bedford, a lot of people don't lock their doors because they're that trustworthy or they're that trusting of their neighbors. And this show begins on September 16th of 2002. Irma Prince is staying at Dunn Memorial Community Hospital for the night. She had surgery to fix her broken hip the day before. Now, the 82-year-old grandma had pins put into her hip to repair it. A straightforward procedure is what we hear on the show. Now, to the delight of her family and to all the hospital staff, the surgery was a success. Grandma Irma was going to be okay. She was supposed to stay in the hospital for only a few days, but she didn't ever get to leave the hospital.
Pins in your hip.
That sounds terrible to me.
That gave me a shudder. It sounds painful. And I can't believe she was only supposed to recover there for a couple of days. I would think that would take a much longer to recover from surgery like that, unless maybe they were sending her to another facility.
Grandma Irma is a trooper.
Oh, Grandma Irma is. Also, a broken bone of any kind at that age is terrifying. I have heard stories of elderly people who break a bone like a hip and they don't recover from it. They don't ever leave that hospital.
Ugh.
And if I make it to my if I make it to my 80s, Jen, you'll find me padded up like a dang football player.
I'm going to put you in one of those bubble costume things.
I would love to be in a giant bubble. Put me in.
As long as I put your dog in there with you, I think you'd be fine.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I don't want anything to happen to my dog either.
See, this is why we work well. I'm looking ahead for you here.
We'll be safe from broken bones.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so at 4:45 in the morning, a nurse is making the rounds and she goes into Irma's room to check on her. Irma isn't breathing and she's unresponsive. A code is called and doctors, nurses, everyone rushes in and tries to save Irma, but they can't, and she ended up passing away. Needless to say, Grandma Irma's sudden death comes as a complete shock to family members because they had said it was a routine surgery and she was going to be fine.
Yep, they were expecting a recovery. And someone just discovered her dead in the hospital, Jen. Someone was doing their routine rounds and discovers that this woman is dead in her bed. What about the machines? What about the ones that beep and let you know when there's not a pulse anymore? Where's that?
Mm-hmm. I saw this funny video the other day. I want to say it was like on Instagram. You know how Instagram does those like reels? Like you post them for our socials,
right.
The real things. And it was these like two friends and one was calling her work and the other one was like doing the microwave, the beep, beep,
yes,
beep.
I've seen that.
And the friend was like, hey, I can't come to the work today. I'm in the hospital.
I love that.
I feel like that's something you and I would do.
Definitely. Where is the beep?
Where is the beep?
All right, anyway, back to the story. One of Irma's grandchildren, Scott, is interviewed here, and he says he knew right away that something wasn't right. They were told this was just routine surgery and they can expect a complete recovery. How do you go from that to death in just a few hours?
Doctors were also super surprised. We hear from the Lawrence County coroner who says Irma had routine anesthesia and then within 24 hours she had passed away and an investigation began into her death because they knew something was off. An autopsy was performed and soon after starting, the coroner says there were some red flags.
Sure were. Here are some things they note while examining Irma. They say she's healthy for her age, and then they look for signs of a blood clot because at her age, that's something that can happen, but they don't find anything there. They also rule out medical malpractice, and they continue to look for any other clues that could point to what killed her. Maybe a stroke, maybe a heart attack, but they don't find any evidence of either of those things, and they also note she doesn't have any physical injuries.
The coroner ended up ordering a toxicology report. The problem is with that, the labs take a couple of weeks to come back. And without any obvious findings to suggest that Grandma Irma died of foul play, her body is released to the family for burial. Burial?
What did you say? Burial?
Burial?
Burial. I say burial.
I feel like it should be spelled with an A then. Anyway, it's like the word people. The word people, if you look at it, it looks like it should say people. You know what I'm saying?
People.
You know?
I have never heard anyone say people.
I know, but if you look at the word P-E-O-P-L-E, if you look at it, it looks like it should be called Piopal.
In my mind, when you were saying the word people, and I was thinking in my head, how else could someone pronounce people? I was trying in my head to figure it out, like what is she gonna come up with? Piopal?
That's how it looks. It should be spelled. You don't think so? Just go home and write down the word people and tell me you don't think it should be pronounced Piopal.
Jen, I gotta bring up an argument that my husband and I had recently.
Give it to me.
How do you pronounce the word that is spelled W-O-N?
One? One? Like you won the award.
I say someone won.
Someone what?
Someone won.
Juan?
Someone won. And he says, no, it's not Juan, the name, like a person. It's not Juan. He says it's one, like O-N-E.
I'm with him on this. It sounds more like one. One, like the number.
But the number is O-N-E. Why would you say that you won?
It's just like Piopal, Tina.
It's Juan. One.
Oh,
Back to the story.
Yeah. Oh, so at this point, Irma's body is released back to the family for burial.
Okay, thank you. It's my yeah. We go back to an interview with Scott, Irma's grandson. He tells us that family was Irma's world, and Irma's family loved her. Her 31-year-old granddaughter, Shay, was especially close to Irma. We hear that she's the one who mainly took care of Irma, and wherever Shay was, there was Irma. As you can imagine, Irma's death was upsetting for the entire family.
Irma was buried a few days later, and at that point, the family had no idea that a few months later, they'd have to have their beloved grandmother dug back up because she would end up helping police catch a killer.
And 6 months after they buried her, sure enough, they have to dig her up again. How traumatic for them.
I think that would be absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I would hate it.
Oh. A week after Irma was buried, the coroner got those toxicology reports back, and what he found was absolutely shocking. The coroner says Irma had a fatal level of Darvon in her system, and you may be curious what Darvon is. I know I was curious. According to rxlist.com, Darvon is a narcotic which is prescribed to treat moderate pain. Turns out there was so much Darvon in Irma's system that not only could it kill her, but also another adult person too. Someone wanted this woman dead.
This was no accident. And who would want to do that to Irma? A sweet little grandma.
She was super cute. Irma's death is ruled a homicide, and police were called in to investigate. And they're worried that this killer is a copycat.
A copycat, which means... oh my gosh.
It's my goal to make you laugh.
I love it. Okay. This means this has happened here before.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a copycat, someone is mimicking someone. And at this point, I'm thinking, it has to be a copycat. What other kind of deranged human would kill sweet Irma except for a psychopath copycat serial killer?
Say that 5 times fast.
No. Thank you. I'm surprised I even got it out in one shot.
You did good.
Thank you.
Turns out the state of Indiana is no stranger to killer nurses.
That's crazy.
Right? Right? I know.
It's no stranger to killer nurses. What in the world?
What in the world is happening in Indiana? Whew. 3 years earlier, in the state of Indiana, in 1999, hospital nurse Orville Lynn Majors was sent to prison for killing 6 elderly patients in his care. Majors would go from hospital to hospital throughout the state and give patients lethal doses of medication in order to kill them.
I hate this guy.
Right?
Someone noticed everywhere this Orville guy went to work, the death rates would increase dramatically. Scott, Irma's grandson, says exactly what I'm thinking. When we see Orville's face on the screen, he says he's a piece of crap that killed a bunch of people. Agreed.
Agreed with you.
And how did they get this Orville guy? The same way they investigated Irma's death. They exhumed over a dozen people who had been buried. And they found, or people as Jen would say, and they found out he was giving patients lethal doses of medication.
The people who are supposed to be helping people.
Every time you say people, I'm going to think of people now. This is ridiculous.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Needless to say, police are worried that there's an angel of death in the community hospital. But finding this killer is going to prove super difficult.
Right. Because there are so many people working at a hospital. If you think about it, all the doctors, all the nurses, the custodians, where do you even start?
Police start their investigation in the hospital pharmacy, which I think is a really good, smart place to start.
Absolutely.
They start going through the hospital files one by one to see how much Darvon was in the hospital and how much was given to patients. Turns out this particular hospital stopped using Darvon 6 months prior, so it's not in the hospital. So there was no reason for Grandma Irma to even have Darvon in her system.
Like I said at the top of this episode, I feel like I'm learning so much watching these shows. What a great way to start investigating this hospital. I would have probably started just talking to the people who treated Irma, but they went straight to find the drug first. And also, I'm fascinated, where do they go next after finding that the drug doesn't even exist at the hospital?
So police start looking into who has access to Darvon, since it's not available in the hospital. So you may be wondering where to even start.
Yep.
The coroner says they built a timeline. You know how I feel about a timeline.
We love a timeline here.
We do. Timelines and string maps, and we're here for all of it.
They're the best.
They knew that it would be around 30 minutes to an hour from the time Irma was given the drugs until the time she passed away. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they knew that. So that means she was given the medication before 4:30 in the morning, meaning it couldn't have been a family member or someone who came to visit Irma in the hospital, since there's no visiting hours at 4:30 in the morning. So police start looking into hospital logs to see who was working that night and who could have gone into Grandma Irma's hospital room.
Investigators looked into Irma's medical records. They examined witness statements and the hospital logs.
Turns out the police were able to clear everyone who worked at the hospital. So, who in the world could it be?
Well, it's not a copycat angel of death killer after all, which is a relief somewhat. But there's still a killer of some kind on the loose, and there are absolutely no suspects at this point.
Police say a hospital staff member gave them a small hint on who it might have been.
Investigators interviewed a respiratory therapist who remembers a woman was sitting in Irma's room close to the head of Irma's bed. And she goes on to say that the woman she saw was not hospital staff, but she was wearing dark clothing and was in the room in the early morning hours on the day that Irma died.
Needless to say, this is a huge lead for police, but there's not much else to go on because we hear there were no cameras inside of the hospital, which when I heard that, I was shocked. How can there not be cameras?
What year was this again?
2002.
Yeah, that's nuts.
At that point, I feel like there should have been something.
Yeah. I mean, maybe cameras came later?
I mean, we had computers then.
Barely. Also, police don't have a motive to go on. Still, who would want to kill Irma and why? Nobody knows. Life insurance wasn't a reason because there was no life insurance money. So now they're going back to the drawing board to try to identify a motive. And they start with the people closest to Irma.
Police turn to her family. Could one of them have snuck into the hospital after hours and killed Grandma Irma?
We hear something interesting. Former reporter for Times Mail, Diana Wires, says police found out that Irma's family was, quote, dysfunctional.
I would not want my family labeled as dysfunctional by a reporter.
You know what's even worse? They don't elaborate on what that means. Mm-hmm. We hear nothing else besides they're dysfunctional. I need to know what that means.
I want to know. Yeah.
I wish they would have allowed Diana to elaborate in this moment, but they don't. And I'm going to be left wondering this whole time, what kind of dysfunctional family is this?
Mm-hmm. We hear Irma was with her daughter-in-law, Carolyn Prince, when she fell and broke her hip.
Carolyn says Irma fell down a short flight of stairs, and that's how she broke her hip. And we also find out that Carolyn and Irma are super close. They go to church together, and they eat out regularly.
Like they're buddy-buddy.
Yep.
When questioned by police, Carolyn gave them Grandma Irma's medications, and one of the bottles of pills she handed over was none other than Darvon, the same medication used to kill Irma.
At this point, it's not looking good for Carolyn.
Nope.
But investigators want to gather more information. They want to know how much Darvon Carolyn gave Irma and when she gave it to her.
Carolyn tells police she did give Irma the drug after she fell around 3:30 in the afternoon. One single pill. But that one pill was not enough to kill her. Carolyn then dropped a bombshell on police. She passed the bottle of Darvon off to 31-year-old Shay White, Irma's granddaughter. Remember, Tina had mentioned her already. Carolyn told police that only one pill had been used and all the other pills were still in the bottle when she handed them over to Shay.
We mentioned Shay earlier, and if you remember, she was one of the closest people to Irma and one of her main caretakers. We go back to the interview with Scott, Irma's grandson. He says Grandma Irma raised Shay like she was her own daughter since Shay was a baby. When Shay grew up, she then took responsibility for caring for Irma. And we also learn Shay's a nurse, and Irma and Shay live together.
Okay. Needless to say, police focus on Shay White. When they find out that Shay was in and out of the hospital the night that Irma died, they have a feeling that something is rotten in the state of Denmark. No offense to all those in Denmark. Have you ever heard that saying?
I was like, we're in Denmark? I thought we were in Indiana.
No, we have lots of listeners in Denmark.
Hi, Denmark.
Hi, Denmark. I have family right now who's actually in Denmark.
What could be rotten in Denmark?
I don't know. It's a saying.
Never heard it.
It's a bad saying.
Yeah.
No offense.
I'm so sorry, Denmark. Whoever made that saying up, terrible.
Okay, I'm going to rephrase that. Needless to say, police focus on Shay White. When they find out that Shay was in and out of the hospital the night that Irma died. Ooh, something is suspicious there.
We find out that after Irma died, Shay called the hospital to have Irma's body sent to the funeral home. But the hospital tells Shay that they can't do that because they still need to do an autopsy. Then we hear that Shay lost her marbles.
She threw a fit.
She sure did. She reportedly started yelling and screaming and acting hysterical, which is a giant red flag.
Uh-huh. Needless to say, this behavior sends up police officers' spidey senses. Something is definitely not kosher here.
Yep. So police get a warrant and head to Shay's house to see what they can find. Any evidence that might be there. Police also ask Shay where she was when Irma died, and Shay claims she was sleeping at home.
No alibi there. Nobody to vouch.
Nope. She's all by herself.
That's no good. Inside Shay White's house, police say they found a large amount of medication, over 1,000 tablets of prescription meds to be exact. I feel like that's a lot of drugs.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Uh-huh.
What are these people doing?
People. Nothing good. Not with 1,000 tablets.
No, like holy smokes, that's a lot. They also find an empty pill bottle of Darvon.
Uh-oh. Shay's claiming that Carolyn handed the empty bottle of Darvon to Shay at the hospital. Remember, Carolyn says she handed a full bottle of Darvon to Shay. And I'm also thinking, why would anyone hand over an empty bottle? Wouldn't you just throw it away?
Yeah, you would. You wouldn't, I mean, why would you keep it?
Yeah.
And like give it to somebody else?
Makes no sense.
None at all. At this point, law enforcement ruled Carolyn out because she had a solid alibi for the night of Irma's death.
As for Shay, there's no proof where she was when Irma died. There's no proof she was home the night Irma died, and no proof that she wasn't.
At this point, police are scratching their heads because they need to figure out how in the world the drugs actually got into Irma's system.
And they need to look for puncture wounds, any sign of a needle.
Like if she was injected.
Right. Remember when they did the first autopsy? They weren't looking for these things because they didn't know what she had died from until after the toxicology reports came back, which was after Irma was already buried. So now they have to examine all the tiny areas, like between her fingers and her toes, looking for needle markings as a possible way that she may have been injected with this drug.
Because the coroner wasn't looking in those specific places.
Right. And remember, Shay is a nurse, and she knows how to use a needle to inject medication.
So a second autopsy is ordered. The problem is Irma's already been buried, meaning she would need to be exhumed. Meaning, like, she needs to be dug up. And on March 23rd of 2003, 6 months after Irma's death, her grandson and police stood at her gravesite and watched an excavator dig up Grandma Irma. once the coffin is hoisted out, everyone is faced with a huge issue. There was water gushing out of the vault. And by vault, I mean, so they showed it on the show, and it's a concrete, almost like a concrete slab, it looks like. Like a tomb. Like a tomb.
Yeah.
And inside that tomb is where the casket sits, and then obviously Grandma Irma is inside the casket.
I didn't know that's how it was done. I thought you just put the casket in the ground.
I thought you were talking about, okay, yes.
Oh my gosh, what do you think I'm talking about? Piople?
No, when you said I didn't know how that's done, and I had just said Grandma Irma is inside the casket.
I'm still not following. Like, I don't know how she got in the casket.
Anyway, so huge problem, right? Water is gushing out of this vault. And while this is going on, investigators cross their fingers and probably their toes too, because they are hoping that the casket is still intact. Back in the coroner's office, they start looking for needle marks on Irma's body, but find none. So they started researching if the Darvon had been put into Grandma Irma's IV at the hospital, and nothing was found. That leaves only one other way that the fatal dose of Darvon could have gotten into Irma's system. Someone sat next to her hospital bed and fed her the lethal dose of pills.
And this leads police back to Shay. They need to find proof that she was the one who gave Irma the pills.
Police start questioning member of Shay White's circle. The prosecutor in the case says that Pastor Kathy Wilson comes in and tells police she was with the family at the hospital the day of the surgery, and she saw the exchange of the Darvon pill case between Irma's granddaughter-in-law and Shay White. Now, this pastor told police the bottle was not, in fact, empty, like Shay White had told police. It was full of pills. Then another witness comes forward. Tell me about this other witness, Tina.
Okay, this other witness is named Donna. Donna Flynn was best friends with Shay White. They even lived together at one point for 4 years. Also, Donna doesn't cooperate much at first. She says to police she doesn't really have any useful information to share. But she must have thrown a red flag or two around because they decide to do a polygraph test on her, a lie detector test. And the results say lies were detected.
This reminds me of one of the episodes that we talked way back when. I want to say it was like one of the first 2 episodes, the Rebecca Zahow case, where we had talked about lie detectors. Mm-hmm. And like even now, like I'm sitting here and like I'm rubbing my hands together and I get clammy. I don't know why whenever I think of a lie detector test. Like I'm not even taking a lie detector test. But 2, I just like instantly get clammy.
You just walk around feeling guilty all the time.
I don't know. I feel like I would, if I were ever to do a polygraph test.
You'd be in trouble.
I would be so nervous. I would be so nervous. Even if I have no reason whatsoever to be nervous about, I would just be nervous.
Maybe you could just, you know how they say when you have to give a speech to people, you should imagine them in their underwear? So it makes you less nervous. Maybe you just imagine the people who are giving you your lie detector test in their underwear.
I feel like that could get me in trouble.
Probably, yeah, knowing you. Okay, so Donna fails her lie detector test.
When confronted with the polygraph results, Donna, she starts talking. Investigators say that Donna told them that Shay told her that her grandmother would die before she ever saw her grandmother go into a nursing home.
Oof. Scott, Irma's grandson, says that he thinks Shay realized how much help Irma was going to need in her recovery and how expensive it might be. And he thinks Shay didn't want to deal with it.
So that's when the prosecutor says Shay White decided that Grandma Irma needed to go.
That's terrible.
It's so bad. And Donna told police how the murder happened. Walk me through it, Tina.
Okay. Donna says that Shay told her that it's possible to give Darvon through a dropper by dissolving it, sucking it into a baster, like a turkey baster, and then feeding the liquid to someone.
Like a little bird.
Yeah. Then Donna says that Shay called her the day Irma died and said, "It's been done. She's either dead or she's dying." I mean, what more do you need right there?
That's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to laugh, but that's terrible.
Who does that?
A
Sick.
crazy person does that.
A sick, crazy person.
Another huge flag that we hear about is that Shay White was calling people, telling them that Grandma Irma had died before she had even been pronounced dead. Geez, that looks bad. That looks so bad.
So she called more than just Donna.
Apparently so.
What a dummy.
I mean, how would you not think that's going to get out?
I can't with this.
Do you know what I mean?
I can't with this person.
At this point, an arrest warrant is issued for Shay White. But when police get to her house, they are met with a very, very strange situation.
Jen, this situation reminds me of the story of the PTA mom from hell.
You're so right. I thought the same thing.
When during a trial, the mom from hell pretended to suddenly be deaf.
And needed a sign language, like interpreter.
Out of nowhere.
Interpreter? Interpreter.
Oh, don't start with your pronunciations. Okay, so here's what police are met with at Shay's house. Out of nowhere, Shay is in a wheelchair with an oxygen tank because we hear that according to Shay's doctor, her condition had deteriorated so badly that she needed to be in a wheelchair with an oxygen tank at all times.
And before this, she was totally healthy.
Yeah, no problems. So the police had to arrange to have a city bus with a wheelchair lift pick up Shay from her house and take her to jail. And regardless of how feeble she appears in this moment, they're still taking her to trial.
Yup.
But guess what? A freaking miracle happens. Hallelujah. Before trial begins, Shay is suddenly healed.
It's a miracle.
How nuts. Good for Shay.
Tina just gave me this look like, I hope she drops dead type look.
I need to learn what look that is.
You just walk around like that.
I just walk around looking at people like that. Oh, that's terrible.
All right, so this takes us to February 17th of 2005, more than 2 years after Irma had passed away. The trial started, and after several hours, the jury comes back around midnight with a guilty verdict. Shay White is sentenced to 55 years in prison, and Irma's family had mixed emotions about the sentencing. The coroner says this case hit especially close to home for him because, like we had mentioned, in the small town of Bedford, Indiana, everyone knows each other. Turns out the coroner knew Shay White. He knew the family of Irma, and he says this is one of those cases that just stays with someone.
You know what's scary, Jen? The thought that this woman was a nurse and could have hurt other people too. I mean, I'm just glad that she's behind bars now.
I hadn't even thought about that, but that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows what else she did?
She had 1,000 pills in her house.
Ooh, these people.
These pupils drive me crazy.
Oh, that was a crazy story. I found this episode and I was like, I just read the description of it and I was like, Tina, we got to do this one.
The description was good.
The description is good. We really enjoyed it. If you have an episode that you've recently watched that you want us to get into, let us know. Send us an email. Shoot us a message on Facebook, on Instagram. We're Two Crime Newsies. You can also contribute to our coffee fund and share a cup of coffee with us. If you're driving to work right now listening to this and you're sipping on your morning brew, hey, we are there for it. You can check out our site, buymeacoffee.com/2crimenewsies. And I'll also link it in the show notes so you can just click on it.
Mm-hmm. It's also on our website, twocrimenewsies.com. And if you haven't done so yet, please go and leave us a 5-star review right now. We love reading them.
One of the other things that I have particularly enjoyed reading are our blog posts. We started doing blog posts.
Jen started doing blog posts. She does all the work around here.
Well, it sounds really bad that I enjoy reading my own blog posts, but yeah, thank you, Tina. And I've been trying to do a weekly blog post on unique and interesting stories from around the globe.
You know what you should do, Jen? When you research these things, you should find out if there's a show on some of this stuff to see if it's, if there's a long enough episode for us to talk about it.
Hey, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I like it. Good thinking. All right, our newsy friends, I hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to doing another one next week, and we will talk to you guys later. Bye.